Um, a few things to go through today. I emailed about one already, and that's just that Rochester is making some content changes. Page 4 for the Saturday edition is going to be a week in review, like what Fargo does on their E2 for Saturday, instead of, no, is it a Minnesota page for Saturday? I don't think it is. I think it's just a regular page, maybe. Or no, that's where they've been putting national stuff. So instead of that national stuff, they'll have a week in review of all of their local stuff. And then on the weather page, with whatever space is under the weather page, it varies from week to week due to advertising. That is going to become Nation World briefs. And so we'll collect those briefs, but also then on the second early Nation World page that we make, we'll just make a chunk of that page briefs. So we're pulling the briefs for that page, and then they can just be used on the Rochester page. Does that make sense? Okay. On the PEJ, apparently there was some confusion, and the times that I was told are the new press times are not actually the new press times. So I got sort of a grumpy email yesterday about why we keep missing the press time. And I was like, it's not even the press time yet. We didn't miss it, but apparently it's a little bit different. So we were told that the B section had to be in at 2:30, but that's actually due at 2. And the A section, we had 3:30. It's actually 2:30. So the deadlines that we have already for the content still get us the content in plenty of time for those deadlines. I talked to Nancy, and the only one we changed was she had until 1:30 for her last story, and we just changed that to 12:30. But she does try to get everything linked by 11 or 11:30 every Tuesday, and she's generally pretty good about that. So we'll just keep going with that. I don't anticipate us having any issues making that deadline, but just so you know that that is a little bit different. The content sheet is already updated. Park Rapids, and we've talked a few times about them recently, and we've had some issues, some of them similar to the ones we had in Jamestown a little while ago. So what I'm going to ask all of you to do for Park Rapids is designers, if you are designing a Park Rapids page, copy and paste the budget for that page on the pasteboard of the InDesign document, and then proofers, when you're going through the page, look at everything on there and make sure that the way the page is designed match what the notes request there, and that things like, if a story has photos, that the photos were actually used, things like that. We've just been kind of making some omissions on that stuff lately, and I'm not quite sure why, but as you all know, sometimes we just have one publication where we just sort of have the issues with them for a little while, and then we move on to a different one. And right now it's Park Rapids, so I'd like us to do that so we can just keep an eye on everything that's in there and try to avoid these errors that we've been having. Some of them are significant, and I understand why the site's upset about them. So questions on any of that? Okay. We have had some schedule changes on the design side recently. We moved some people around, and so we have moved, let's see, Erin, Cindy, and Mary, who've adjusted their schedules a little bit to fit into our new schedule. Angela moved to some dayside hours, and then Jessica and Paula are moved to some earlier hours on Tuesday to help us cover things. And Marcy will have some changes coming up in a little bit as well. So we may have more changes on the design side in the future. I'm not totally sure yet. We're kind of going through and looking at deadlines to see if there's more changes we can make that'll make things easier for all of us. On the pod side, we will have some schedule changes soon. Just we're still trying to figure those out right now. So, but those schedule changes just help us better align with where the work is, especially with the change from Brainerd. We also, on the design side, nobody starts at 7:30 under the new schedules. The first person starts at 8. That's just because, honestly, between 7:30 and 8, there isn't necessarily a lot to do, and pod members don't start until 8. So that's sometimes just been wasted time. And so we moved that to other places. We also adjusted some schedules just so things were more consistent. We had one person where it was like they started at 7:30 one day and then like started at 9 the next day. And then another person started at 9 that day and then 7:30 the next day. So we made it so the one person starts earlier and the one person starts later. Again, just to kind of even that stuff out and make things a little bit better. I know we've talked about it before, but again, if there's something about your schedule that you'd like us to look at and see if we can change, please let me know. I can't always make all of the changes, but if nothing else, I can, keep it on my list of, in the future, if something changes, this person would like, this change or whatever, things like that. Questions on any of that? All right. Then the last thing is I would like to just get all of your opinions. We've made a lot of changes lately to how we do different things. We've moved to the shared sports pages. We've gotten rid of some things like lottery, remakes to film mailing labels, some stuff like that to try to make our job easier, to make things more efficient, some things like that. And I just want to hear from all of you where you would like us to go next with that, what things are making your job harder, what things are making your job easier that we should be focusing on. Really just anything, any thoughts that you have on anything at all in terms of where we should be focusing our efforts.
You want those now?
Yes. Yep.
Well, I do like the shared sports pages. I don't know if anybody, we've been doing those now for, oh God, I don't know how long. Is it a couple months now?
Yep.
But I think I've even heard from some editors that they like it. It cuts down on the repetition. We're having some stumbling blocks, I think, with some of the early deadline papers on print days, that they are thinking that they can remake to get some of this early copy I've made available. So we're trying to work on that. But overall, I think the shared sports pages are a good idea. And I think we should continue those. And anytime we can do more of those types of shared things, like for big entertainment events or big news events, we should continue to do that. One thing I've also noticed with the print versus e-editions on, for Wednesdays and Saturdays for a couple of sports sections, they'll put their skybox on for print and it'll refer into a sports story that then the sports department pulls for their e-edition, and nobody tells the 1A designer or the pod editor that they're doing that. And so those are things to watch out for. So I would just recommend, if you're working on a pod, or if you're working on a sports section on a print, or then an e-edition later, just double check to make sure that the refers are right. But yeah, I like the shared sports pages.
Okay. Mark said that the new QR codes are creating some weird spots on the bottoms of A1s. So yeah, I will go through those. If there are specific ones that are wonky, let me know so I can start with those. Yeah, Emily.
I was just thinking about the skeletons and how some of the print skeletons still have the old e-edition ad on them. And I just wanted to know if those were going to be changing or if there's going to be something else put in there. And yeah, just about the skeletons.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like we're going to go with the QR code for now. Those other ads, in addition to making the design weird sometimes, they had the image of the covers on there and then the cover got outdated pretty quickly. So we're going to go with the QR. So yeah, we will get the skeletons updated. Yeah, Becca.
I have a thing to do with the Google Docs. I guess when it says that, like, the lead photo is number 9 and the second photo is number 4 and then whatever, and it's like if there was any way that they could go and order, I mean, trying to scroll and make sure that I get the exact right cut line that deep and stuff. Sometimes it can get really confusing when you have 3 different things on the front page and stuff. So, I mean, not all papers do that. Most of them don't, but if we could like maybe uniform that a little bit, because I think I've done it. I've messed it up before when it was one off, you know, so just that little, I mean, it's not a huge thing, but just a little thing.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, I'm wondering too why papers will do that. They'll, you know, because in Brightspot they'll have 12 photos with the story, and I guess they're picking their lead photo because it looks better on the website, and then, you know, they kick out the Google Doc, but then the one for print is actually, you know, photo 3 or whatever. I mean, I think there's a way that you can, and I've tried it, where I've gone into the Google Doc and then, okay, number 3 is supposed to be number 1. Okay. So then I copy number 3 and then I move it up to number 1 and I hit paste, but then the one in number 1 goes away altogether. I mean, it just disappears, and so you're like, oh, nope, undo. So yeah, I wonder if there's a way we can work around that in you know, because you can't just add in the temp, you know, you can't just add another row into the template, I guess, unless you can, and I don't know about it.
I mean, you probably could because it's just a table, but I don't know how to do it. It's not really something I necessarily want to
Yeah.
mess around with. But
If you click, you can add a row. And if you have more than one row selected, like say you have 3 selected, it'll actually ask you if you want to insert 3 rows because you have 3 selected, and it'll say either above or below.
oh, nice.
Yes.
Okay, well, some
Tim
we
always
can,
knows what's up. So yeah, and the other thing is like maybe I can ask IT if there's a way that instead of having 3 separate fields for each photo where it's the link and the cut line and the credit, if those could come in as one box,
Hmm.
that'd be easier to make sure that you've got the cut line for the right photo. If they were just one box for each one, that help. It would make it, you know, a bigger text block but
That would be really nice.
okay. I will ask.
because there are some out there. I mean, I know we've all seen it, but Meredith and I deal with it on the pod too, when we'll take a feature story and think, oh, well, this will be good for the whole network. And then we realize there's 27 photos with it. And, you know, you're like, well, no other paper in this company except the local paper is going to run all those. And then so what we do is we end up we will delete 25 of those photos, but then the doc is still this long, you know. I mean, it's really cumbersome. So if there was a way that we could you know, streamline those photos on the template, that would be great.
And Paula mentioned that better directions on certain budget items. She got a crime report that should have used the court script, but it didn't have the directions on there. So yeah, that makes an excellent point as well. So I got that on my list. What else? It
I
can
like
be
the lotteries.
no lotteries. Yes, I do enjoy that as well. I mean, we can just get the pages out. We don't have to wait, and I don't have to worry every morning that I'm going to get an email saying we printed the lottery number wrong and now we're being sued because somebody called in a millionaire and so all right, other things. This can be, you know, small things, big things. Okay. Well, you know, please be thinking of that. And as you go through things, like I said, little things, big things, you know, we've managed to get a lot done recently, and I want to keep that momentum going and keep making things more efficient for us. Okay.
Yes, that's Mark put in a good note there. Really watch these, especially pod editors when I know you get busy, and there are some local editors who will link up their documents so you don't have to. But often what they're doing is they're linking and not editing the headlines. And so they say, hey, this is our centerpiece story, and it's got a 15-word headline. And so always, for pod editors, we always have to be a little weary. It's not that I don't trust local editors. It's just that I don't trust local editors. And so you have to, if they're going to link up stuff for us, take that with a grain of salt, because they're going to probably still have that long web headline on there. So that's a good point. Yeah, we always need to be watching. And then, of course, for pod editors too, if you're going to use, I've seen this on some slow news days too, is they will take a, a story we're sharing on the Pod Digest. Let's say a Grand Forks is going to use that story, but it's the pod version. And you need a centerpiece headline out of there. You can't just go onto the file and write the headline, because then that changes it for everybody. So you have to, put the headline right on the digest and let the designer know that, use this headline. But yeah, that's a good point.
Yep, and Aaron also makes a good point about taglines in italic at the bottom of the story. So pod editors, we got to watch for that and make sure we're moving stuff to the footer section of the doc. And Mark said that sometimes we're getting art that's too small, and then it's not big enough. I'm gonna ask IT if there's some way that we can have information on what size an image is, or what, so that we can make sure that it actually is large enough to CP in the first place. That's a good idea, Mark.
But also sometimes it's just poor planning on the properties part too, where they're like, oh, well, I expected this art to come in from them and it'd be amazing. And it's like, to not have a backup plan when someone on, forum staff is not taking the photos, it puts both the pod and the hub in a predicament.
Mm-hmm.
Are these mainly feature pages that you're seeing this on, or because I see, because if it's 1A, really headline, I mean, that's a problem. If your 1A centerpiece is coming in and it's got it's submitted art, it should be fine, and then we call it up and it's postage stamp size. Okay, thank you.
I've seen that quite a bit with history type stories where they're getting photos from historical society or whatever, and those usually come in way too small.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I've seen it on some contributed stuff for feature pages for, somebody did the thing and here's the picture of them doing the thing that their mom took on the cell phone and sent it, and then it's too small. So, yep, I'll ask IT if there's some kind of a way that we can flag that or something so that we know right away and we're not finding out on deadline that we don't have the art we thought we had. So, all right. Anything else? Okay. As always, if you think of more things, please let me know. I want to make sure that Mark says, other than that, everything is great, and great is all in capital. I just want to point that out. Mark thinks things are great. Like I said, I just want to continue the momentum of what we've been doing in terms of, just making changes so that some things make sense. We're not duplicating work. We're not doing stuff that, isn't really serving our readers. It's just adding time, things like that. So anything you think of, please let me know. The other thing is I would like all of you to be thinking about our style, so our design style, and send me your thoughts on what you like and don't like, your favorite elements, least favorite. What we're looking at is that we really would like to just go to having one style instead of one style and then Rochester style. And so we're trying to figure out what that would look like. And part of that is, I don't know how you all feel about it, but some elements of our current style were developed kind of in a rush at the beginning of the hub. Some font choices, things like that. So I want to go back to the drawing board a little bit on that. I want to look at the fonts that we use for Rochester. A lot of Rochester's redesign elements are really nice. There's a few things they have that I don't like. So I just want to hear from all of you as our design team, as our, creative visual people, the people that, you guys know what you're talking about for newspaper design. Pod editors, what works, what makes it easier to put the page together, elements that you like to have designers use, you don't like, that make things easier, all of that stuff. I just want to hear from all of you, your thoughts on that. And I would appreciate if you all could just send me an email in the next week or so. Just kind of let me know your thoughts, favorite fonts. Do you like our form column SIGs or the Rochester ones better? Whatever, anything like that. I just want to hear all your thoughts so that as we start working on that, we have your input, because part of me wants the redesign to be based on what I personally like, but as we all know, most of you have better design sensibility than me, so it really shouldn't be based on my preferences. So, all right, that is what I have for today. Anything else I can help you all with? Any questions, anything like that? I don't know, Matt, if you had any announcements you wanted to make. Paula feels like a lot of the changes are making things a lot less stressful. So,
I was wondering, we've had pod for almost 2 years or a year. I can't even remember anymore.
Mhm.
But I was wondering, are the numbers showing that this is actually helping? What we were aiming to do?
Mhm.
Place.
Yep. Yeah. It, in some ways it is, and in some ways it isn't. And I was actually in a meeting earlier this week. We were kind of having a discussion about it. It has definitely made a lot of things more efficient. I think for designers, it has made a lot of the communication easier. We're able to streamline things, like this is just the one way we're doing everything, all of that kind of stuff. But also, I know that on a site level, there wasn't a huge amount of direction in terms of, okay, so we're changing this. So with this gone, this is exactly what you're supposed to be using that time for. These are the specific, action items and things you're supposed to be working on. And that's something that's being discussed now, and figuring out how to sort of emphasize that and help better realize on a site level the workflow changes. And again, as some of you know, some of our editors, okay, yes, we took over their budget, but they still keep themselves very involved in the print process and are taking a lot of time doing things like still doing a page by page budget, or picking their own skeletons, or checking pages behind our back after we send them, stuff like that. And so we're working on helping them let go of the mentality that they need to be doing that. So. All right, Matt, did you have anything else?
No, the budget for tomorrow is pretty good shape for the pod editors. I do expect a couple more crime stories out of Minnesota to come in, but they're outrageously long, so you can probably figure out the paper that they're from. And so we're going to trim those down before we add them to the budget. So I do expect some more crime stories. And I'm going to ready a college football bowl schedule, and kind of we can run that in the agate, but I'm also thinking about making it a standing page filler for just the regular sports pages too. But that's it for the pod. I don't want to bore everybody with that stuff. So.
All right. Jessica, Nancy, and Matt, if you could hang out, I got a question for you. Everybody else, thank you very much. Aye.